to be who you are in the first place. And that's really the step that most people don't ever take. The rest of it is just sort of dressing. It's a second, third, fourth. The first step is believing that you are worthy of being seen, to shine, to be successful, to be happy, to live your life on your terms. And that decision, that single decision, that full body yes to the purpose and the life that you want to live is the key to grow what I call net worth. But by the way, net worth is somewhat of a misnomer. I really don't talk about money in the book at all. It's about really defining what net worth is to you. It couldn't be money in the bank. It can also be just the experience and feeling of freedom in your life. And so in order to achieve that success, all you got to do is simply be you. And I call my book The Permission Slip to Be Who You Are and the Roadmap to Help You Build It.
Jessica Zweig is the CEO and founder of SimplyBe, a premier personal branding company based in Chicago. Her accomplishments have garnished her extraordinary praise, being named top digital marketer to watch, Forbes naming her personal branding expert, and also being called 10 entrepreneurs to follow. Jessica began her entrepreneurial journey in 2008 as co-founder of CheekyChicago.com, the city's leading women lifestyle magazine for 7 years strong, and developed notable partnerships with over 100 national brands, including Lululemon and Coca-Cola. Then she realized she needed to be in alignment with who and what she represented, so she birthed her newest company, SimplyBe. Fueled by the belief that personal branding isn't a vanity play, but an opportunity to make the world a better place. Jessica and her female-led team at SimplyBe have gained a national reputation for defining and enhancing the personal brands of corporate executives, entrepreneurs, and creatives, transferring them into recognized industry experts and thought leaders. Now, Jessica welcomes her newest book, Be, a no-bullshit guide to increasing your self-worth and your net worth by simply being you, which is now available February 16th. Of course, I have another gorgeous woman on. I've had so many remarkable guests, and I'm just so honored to have you on, Jessica Zweig, if I pronounced that correctly.
Perfect. You did it. Perfect. Nailed it.
I just want to let you know, I've been following you for some time. Your bright yellow just shines through my Instagram. Every time I see you pop up, there's something bright, but it's not only the bright colors you use, it's the brightness that comes through you. And I just want to really acknowledge that I've been following you for some time, and I've been wanting to have you on for so long. So thank you for being on Passion Love Pursuit podcast.
Thank you for having me on your show and for those reflections. It means a lot. You know, being positive and shiny and light I think it takes work for all of us. You know, I don't think it's our default. I think we have to really be intentional and conscious when we want to create a positive life. And so thank you for saying that. It means a lot.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know we're going to dive pretty deep in this. And well, I always like to start off with getting to know you as my guest and sharing your story with everybody else so they could get to know you and the challenges you've been through. Because I know you're a successful entrepreneur and you live in Chicago. And I know a lot of people know you in Chicago for what you built there. So I'd love if you could kind of share your story, you as a woman entrepreneur, and kind of the challenges that you uncovered along the way. I know there's probably a lot to that, but just to get to know you.
Yeah, no, I love that you asked that nuance about my story, because I think it's our challenges that make us. And I think it's really where people can learn the most from, not our successes, but our actual failures and mistakes and rock bottoms that have allowed us to sort of grow and evolve to be who we are. And so I will absolutely take you through that to a degree. I mean, I can go real way back. I mean, I guess, you know, it's really easy to look at my platform and be like, oh, she's a successful entrepreneur. Well, what most people don't know is that I was the opposite of cool. I grew up in a suburb where there was, you know, tons of money and affluence and beauty. And I was a gawky, awkward nerd with like no self-esteem and horrible skin and bad hair and overweight. And I just never really felt comfortable in my own body. And then I went off to become an actress of all things. My previously, insecure life, I went to school to study theater, and I graduated college, became an actress. I did that for 5 years, mainly in Chicago, and we actually went to LA quite a bit and New York, but really got a ton of work in the city of Chicago. So I just kind of kept growing my career here. But that was a really challenging time. I think, you're in LA, you know that industry and those people well. And as a young girl with low self-esteem to begin with, going into acting, I became extremely body dysmorphic and really totally consumed with what I looked like. And I was getting told left, right, and center to lose weight, change my hair, clear up my skin. And so it was like 5 years of pursuing acting. I got work, but I was really unhappy. And there was even more self-loathing that actually came with that. And then I ended up coming up with this idea when I was like 27 to start a food and fashion blog, because I loved being a girl in the city. I was single and I was going out a lot, and I was using the internet to figure out where to go. And there was no resource online for me. And so I did what a lot of entrepreneurs do, see a problem that needs to be solved. And I created this magazine, and it blew up. And I left acting like almost right away and became technically an entrepreneur, and ended up growing what became the largest online magazine for women in the city of Chicago for 7 years in a row. And it was a really sparkly magazine. We had 100,000 readers. We partnered with all these major brands. Everyone in the city knew who I was. We partnered with all the hottest restaurants and nightclubs and hotels and boutiques. And it was like a really cool chapter of my life, actually. And I cut my teeth on entrepreneurship, digital marketing, social media. But the outside story was very different than the inside story. And I was not healthy. I had a business partner. We had a toxic relationship. I was drinking 6-7 nights a week, going out, starving to be seen on the scene. I was getting physically sick, suffering from anxiety. Oh, and by the way, we had no money. Like we had a really cyclical revenue model. So it was feast or famine, and we could at times barely pay ourselves. Like let alone our employees could barely get paid. And so it was just a very chaotic time in a large sense. And it was amazing. Like I, grew my network, got all of my experience, like really, sort of became Jessica in a large way, but made a lot of financial mistakes and a lot of mistakes as a leader, and just was green as grass when I started that company, and really grew up over those 7 years, learning from those mistakes. And I had a pretty significant breakdown, probably around year 6 of that journey, and full-on nervous breakdown, and reached sort of this voice. I heard an inner voice during that breakdown that I'd never heard before. It was my higher self, I guess you could call it. And it told me that I needed to leave that business. And it was a wild notion, because that business was me. And, as an entrepreneur, business owner, like your business isn't separate from you. You are it, and it is you. And so this idea of leaving was so nuanced and complicated and unbelievable, but I knew in my gut I had to. And I have this little tattoo on my wrist that says SimplyBe. And as I was kind of going through this breakdown, I heard the higher voice say, you have to leave and do another thing, go off on your own. I always knew I would work for myself and be my own boss, but it told me I had to call my next venture SimplyBe, to always be and remembering that I need to stay in my truth, because I was so out of alignment, so inauthentic. I was so funny. I was just really operating from ego. I was this like nerdy girl who ended up becoming cool in my late 20s because I ran this magazine, and really was fueled by such false attention in a sense. And I didn't know what SimplyBe was going to be. I just knew I had to go off and do that. And I also, had to really hire help. I hired a life coach. Like this was a journey. It didn't happen overnight. And about a year later, around the 7-year mark, I walked away. It was extremely complex too. And, it was the best thing I did. And that was when I launched SimplyBe. And I didn't have any revenue model. I had no marketing plan. I just had me. I was like, I'm going to consult. I'm going to help some people with marketing and branding because I know some shit now, right? So I can go off and kind of eat what I kill and 1099 myself and work on retainer and make some cash and just try and figure my life out. And within a week of leaving this business that I had ran for 7 years to launch this brand new thing, I sent an email to my network and a Facebook post. That's all I did. And I got like $25,000 worth of clients overnight and a line out the door because I was one person. And I was like, holy crap, what's going on? And I was, really, there was more money than I ever seen in my life, but it wasn't about the money. It was about a couple things, this moment of empowerment, like to really switch out of scarcity and into abundance. But it was actually not so much about that and more about the aha moment of, I have equity in my brand name. People don't even know what I do. People know the story of what I've been telling about myself pretty subconsciously online for the last 7 years. That was enough information for them to call me and ask me to work with them, not the other way around. And so that really set me on this path of personal branding. Like I had one and I didn't even realize the power of my own. And so if I could really master that and get really authentic about that and really architect it in a way that was of service to other people, then what's the sky's the beginning. How I could leverage it even more. And I decided to not only do that for myself, but to help other people do it. Because I did know digital marketing and I did understand social media and I did understand brand storytelling and how to create content that converts. Like I knew all of that. So I could apply it to help not brands, but people. And I'm a very spiritual person. And I know you know that since you follow me. And I really believe that we need more humanity. We need more vulnerability. We need more authenticity in the world. And we can do that as people. And we can do that on the internet if we do that in a very conscious way. And so I created a business model around helping people do that. And it's really kind of taken off. And, we have this book coming out, which is super exciting. And, at the end of the day, this journey of simply being is the journey I like to teach people, but it's my own journey too. And I really feel like your business will only grow to the extent of which you grow as a person. And in order for me to grow into this successful entrepreneur, I actually, Erica, had to take such an honest look at my own shit and own the responsibility for the part I played in it. And that was critical. That has been, I think, one of the biggest transformational shifts of my life is just anytime things go wrong, things don't go my way, it's hard in the moment, but eventually you process it. Like I created this. This didn't happen to me. This happened for me. And in some ways because of me. And so I think that has really been an instrumental part of my success. And I'm happy to talk more about my rock bottoms because I've had quite a few more, but that's the high level of my story, I guess.
Oh, wow. There's so much in there and there's so much to unpack from that. And I just thank you for sharing that because I think it's so important. Everybody knows, some people become successful really quick. And when you started your first company, Cheeky, it did become successful very quick, but underlying that, there was more depth that needed to be addressed. And that was you as a person. And if you were happy and fulfilled and actually giving your best self into the company and realizing you weren't in all because you weren't happy overall. But I think one of the things I could definitely relate to that you mentioned is responsibility. And I think that's one of my biggest lessons I learned when I worked with a life coach as well, was we are 100% responsible for what happens in our life. And it's a touchy subject because, some people be like, well, is it my fault that I was abused or this, that, and the other? And it's more the fact of when you're an adult, we have the choice to make, we have decisions and we have the freedom to make a choice to go this way or that way or say yes or no. And ultimately we are the driving force of that. And so it's our responsibility. So I think I love that you said that because I relate to that so much. That was my biggest lesson, that all these bad relationships or heartbreaks, they weren't just because my friends were like, oh, it's the guy or whatever it may be. It's like, no, I have part in that too. And I had to take ownership for that. And so I think that's so important when it comes to anything in life. So I just want to pull that out and highlight that. But as far as the authenticity part, so you and I talk about authenticity so much. And to me, that is the cornerstone of everything I do now, because as you, I really relate to not really knowing myself. And I felt disconnected to who I truly was. Like, what was my truth? What was the things I stand for? Who am I really being? Do I respect myself? Do I feel, I have self-worth and love for myself? And really realizing I didn't as well through my own journey. And I like that you share that through, being able to be quiet with yourself and it just hitting you one day, like, this is not who you really are. Like, this isn't that you weren't happy in what you were doing. So authenticity to me, I think, is our superpower, to be honest. Like, the more we root into ourselves, the more everything else will just flow. And so, and it's not a cliche word. I know a lot of people are like, oh, authenticity, like it's swung around so much, but it's really a subject that needs to be highlighted. I think that deserves attention, because I think so many people aren't being authentic, truly, right?
Agree. You're preaching to the choir, my friend. I am on a mission to breathe new life into the word authenticity. Like, it is overused and it is overplayed, and it's so unfortunate. And yet I kind of understand why, but I have this theory, and I say it in my book, like, let's actually celebrate the fact that authenticity is overused in the sense that it's everywhere and that everyone is being authentic. What a fucking life and planet that would be if we were all really just being who we were born to be and operating from our hearts and our own unique path and DNA and purpose. Like, and who are we to honestly say what's authentic to someone else isn't authentic? Like, I just think it's such a magical word, and it has weight, and we really should bring it back. We really should make it a thing in 2021.
Yes.
I'm on a mission.
Yeah. And I mean, the beautiful thing is, I think more and more these days, and you definitely could attest for this, that there used to be the highlight reel, like social media. When we talk about personal branding, which we'll go really into depth about this, and highlighting your book and everything. But when it comes to how it used to be, the highlight reel, people would just share the beauty. So people would just share the positive stuff. And now more these days, you see people, at least the people I follow, I don't know about everybody, but I see more vulnerability. I see more authenticity. I see people sharing their shit. And, it's beautiful because you feel more connected to that person. You see the struggles and you're like, oh, I know I've felt that too. And it becomes relatable, and we see humanness more these days, which is so beautiful.
That's really what I try and teach in my book and in everything I do. Like, the more willing you are to bring your humanity and your vulnerability to your expertise and to your professional story, the more magnetic you're going to become, because that's really what people want to hear about. That's where people will learn more from your truth than your triumph. They just will. And I also want to state too that, because sometimes I get, in full honesty, I get reflections, not often, but sometimes, where people will tell me like, oh, Jessica, you talk about authenticity, but you're so polished, and you're so stylized, and you're so branded, and I actually always appreciate that feedback, to be honest, because it's like not a healthy challenge, but like, what I want to say to people, because whether it's me or you're reflecting that onto, or someone else, when you see, a really polished, like, successful, sparkly person in the world, that's their expression of authenticity. Like, someone else's expression might be, flowy skirts and dream catchers. Like, like, this is my personal expression of authenticity. And I had to work really hard to feel confident in that bright yellow, sparkly girl that people see on Instagram. It's authentic. And so your version of authenticity everyone's is going to look different. So long as you're coming, I really think, from your heart and of service to other people, to be frank, and not your ego, you're being authentic. You really are. Only you get to decide what that is. And authenticity is a practice. It's not you don't tie it up in a bow and call yourself done. Like I know myself now, I'm good. Right? It's a journey.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree. I think we're constantly evolving, as we should be. We should be growing and evolving. And I don't think our authentic self is ever an end result. It's more like, how can we keep rooting in ourselves and uncovering new ways about ourselves or new ideas? I think that's exactly true. It's a journey. But I love that you actually mentioned that people would say to you, like, you're so sparkly and happy all the time. You're such a light, like you're so positive all the time. And people think that as like a negative thing. But in a way, I think as long as we're being using the word authentic about it, and how does somebody distinguish that? Who knows? Or actually, let me ask you, how does somebody distinguish if it's authentic or not? But I'm just curious, why do you think people say that to other people? Like, you're always so bright and happy.
Well, I think, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. That's a quote by Anais Nin.
I love that.
And so I'm just going to lay it out. If my sparkle and shine is a threat to someone else, it's not because my sparkle and shine is threatening. It's their own sparkle and shine is threatening to themselves. They look at someone like you, someone like me, and they're like, well, who the heck are they to be that sparkly? When really they're asking themselves, who am I to be that sparkly? And so if you begin to see yourself, remembering that we see the world not as it is, but as we are, if you begin to see yourself as the beautiful, capable, talented, successful unicorn that you are, you're just innately going to look at other people like that too. And the work of authenticity is an inside job. It's not an outside job. You don't project your authenticity out onto other people. You do the work on you, and you stay focused on what feels right and true to you and follow that path. And that becomes, one, a divine roadmap to live the life you're supposed to live. And two, inspiration for other people, the right people. Some people are going to be like, yeah, no, that girl's full of shit. But guess what? If you know you're not full of shit, then that's okay. That's not your person to follow you. That's not your person to hire you. That's not going to be a person who's going to refer you. But the more that you vibrate at your frequency, at your unique energy, and the more you unapologetically, boldly do that, because we're all energy and this is just science, the more you're going to, two things are going to happen. You're going to repel people who are not at that frequency, and you're going to attract the people that are. And that's amazing. That's the way it should work. And I say this a lot. You do not need to reach millions of people today to make millions of dollars. If you're putting yourself out there to grow your business, or if you're just putting yourself out there to create, attraction for friends or a partner, right? Do you, be you, vibrate at that, know what that frequency is. That's what my book will help you do, and define it, and then live it unapologetically. And that really, I think, becomes the pathway to living an authentic life, and having it feel really, really good and really, really fulfilling.
Yes. I love everything you just said. Absolutely. And what do you think is the best way to connect deeper with ourselves? I know obviously you could say meditation, but I'm curious, I know you worked with a life coach. I did too. But what would you recommend for somebody that just feels, as you did when you were in that job, you were go, 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 and you were doing all the things you had to at the time to build that brand and company, but you drew further away from your true authentic self. So what would you recommend to really, become more aligned with who you truly are and live in your truth?
I mean, I often say life is really hard and you shouldn't do it alone. So, hiring resources like a life coach or a therapist, really surrounding yourself with people who are going to push you, who are going to tell you the truth. Like, yeah, you want a shoulder to cry on, and you should have soft landings and people to love you up when you're going through hard times, but you also you want people to shine a mirror at things that you cannot see and shine light on your shadow. I mean, some of my best mentors and coaches and therapists were the ones that told me things that hurt, that weren't like, I didn't want to hear. That's one. I talk about that actually in my book, like really push yourself into the edges of what makes you uncomfortable. And that's how you grow. You know, women, especially we talk about self-care and like, you know, nourishing ourselves. And you mentioned meditation, and that's definitely powerful and a tool. So is getting your nails done. Like, to me, like those are like maintenance, right? Like self-care and like really knowing yourself requires effort and time. And so I've turned to, I take trips alone. I think solitude is so important to be with yourself. I'll go a week to Santa Fe or a week to Costa Rica. I've been in Costa Rica by myself for a month. Like, I love my alone time to really be with myself. I journal. I think journaling is a really powerful practice to really get your thoughts out and clear. I just think if you can put yourself in nature, like it, and really connect to the planet, you will get information, your energy and vibration will shift. And so I think that personal development and growth, masterminds, retreats, like those kinds of experiences, submerging myself in all-encompassing experiences with other people who are also seeking to grow, those have been really powerful containers. I think that make it a number one priority to transform yourself, to grow and to evolve. And your life and your business and your relationships, like they'll follow suit.
Yes. And you'll connect with the right people and polarize the people that are not in alignment with you. Yes.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, I want to go deep into your book because as I was mentioned before I pressed record, I was so fortunate to read the manuscript beforehand because it's coming out February 16th, but you could pre-order it now, which is really exciting. But I freaking loved your book of what I've read so far. And as I was telling you this, I love just how you came across the pages, how you expressed everything, your wording, just, you know, it's relatable, it's easy, tangible tools. Anyways, I could, like I said, I like your book.
You're making me cry. Thank you.
But I'm being really, really genuinely honest. I really think the book is phenomenal. And that's why I'm so excited to share. I mean, I just wanted to share you on this podcast, but I'm also going to share your book because this subject alone is about your book, really, of what everything you share. It's so valuable. And you really teach people how to, first of all, use personal branding as not this business tool, but actually who you are, not necessarily just in your life, but also in your professional business, that they're intertwined, which I think a lot of people don't think about personal branding. They think it's like a business thing, like how we show up on social media and whatnot. But the way you describe personal branding is a little different. So if you could share, first of all, share what your book is. It's called Be, which first of all, I love your brand. SimplyBe is just so simple and so sweet. Straight to the point, just simply be you, just be. And so your book is called Be. And I would love to hear, what is the book in whole? What is it about? And why does everybody need this right now?
They do. Thanks for saying that. They sure do. So the full title is Be, a no bullshit guide to increasing your self-worth and your net worth by simply being yourself. And my book is a tactical roadmap that is going to teach you soup to nuts how to build your personal brand in a way that no other book on the market has done. I am a fan of generosity, and I've given all my secrets and tricks and tips and all the things I do in my company away. So from messaging to content creation to strategy to social media to PR, you're going to learn how to build a platform. But it's so much more than that. It is a permission slip to be who you are in the first place. And that's really the step that most people don't ever take. The rest of it is just sort of dressing. It's a second, third, fourth. The first step is believing that you are worthy of being seen, to shine, to be successful, to be happy, to live your life on your terms. And that decision, that single decision, that full body yes to the purpose and the life that you want to live is the key to grow what I call net worth. But by the way, net worth is somewhat of a misnomer. I really don't talk about money in the book at all. It's about really defining what net worth is to you. It couldn't be money in the bank. It can also be just the experience and feeling of freedom in your life. And so in order to achieve that success, all you got to do is simply be you. And I call my book The Permission Slip to Be Who You Are and the Roadmap to Help You Build It. And I just really, and along the way, I take you on my own journey towards that realization. I really wanted to be right alongside the reader. I didn't want to come at the reader like this marketing branding expert that was sort of above you and untouchable. Like, no, I've been where the reader is. I'm still where the reader is. And you really get to know my story along the way. All these lessons I've learned for myself. And I really wanted this book to inspire people. You know, I want that to teach people these tangible, tactical tools, but it's more than that. I call SimplyBe often a personal empowerment company disguised as a personal branding company. And so my book is a personal empowerment book disguised as a personal branding book.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of it that way, but I completely see that. And exactly, I think there's so much more in the book than what it's really meant for, is developing your personal brand. I think, as you mentioned, you touched on so much. You're sharing the journey along with us of how you uncovered this and why it's so important and the value of it.
Yes.
Opposed to just financial value or abundance in money, you know? So I love that. And actually one of the things I'll pull out at the top of the book, I think it's the first page, you make this statement. I believe it's something like, do not be surprised how quickly the universe will respond once you have decided. So why is this statement so powerful to you? And I loved it. Like I really gravitated towards that because I'm like, yes, alignment. Like, I really believe we have to believe we deserve, we have to, whatever we want, we have to believe we could have to attain it.
Exactly.
You know, that's what I truly believe. So can you go deeper into that?
Hunter, I love that you brought that quote up because it is the first quote in the book. I talk about that quote all the time. That quote changed my life. I orient to those words every day. And, you know, I'm gonna get emotional. I start the book without giving too much away at my most rock bottom moment where I was broke and I couldn't even afford to pay my phone bill. And I had to ask my family to help me, and the shame and the self-loathing and the lack of value and the worthlessness that I felt in that moment. And actually for a long time around that time of my life. And I had to dig really deep and decide that I had value despite what was in my bank account, that I had value despite what the world might have thought of me. It was only what I thought of myself. And I had to decide that I was going to take the leap, start this new business, just choose how I wanted to feel every day, be like, it's me. Like I am worthy of living this life that I have dreamed of, that I have been sitting on the sidelines watching everyone else do it and judging them and projecting them and hating myself because I'm not them. And then like just completely busting those beliefs. And I've had multiple moments of those decision points, Erica, where I'm like, I'm going to quit the corporate job. I went and worked at a corporate job for a hot minute in between Cheeky and SimplyBe. I'm going to leave this partnership that doesn't feel right, even though I'm kind of in bed with them. I'm going to let go of this client that is dragging me down, even though they're paying me a ton of money. Like those decisions, like once you decide, like full body decide, the universe responds. The universe expands you in kind and quickly. And that is how I opened the book with that quote, because I wanted it to set the stage to the reader. Like this could be a little bit more than you think it is. This is a little bit more on the spiritual side of really looking at your life through this lens of full activation in your own light. And then creating the strategy and launching the website, right? Like you have to decide that first. And so do not be surprised how fast the universe will respond once you have decided is my mantra.
Yes, I love it, because I think that I think that's one of the things I realized. How could I achieve what I want if I don't believe I am worthy of it? So for myself, I had to get in alignment with the belief that like I'm worthy, I deserve this, and decide like I this is what I want, this is what I desire, but now I need to become and be in alignment with what I desire. And I think that, that statement kind of coincides with this, is becoming the person to attract those things. I'm trying to get the right words out. Like chopping my words up, but basically you need to become the person that has those things.
Yes.
And then once you're in that alignment and you decide that that's what you want and that's what you deserve, I believe that it will just naturally come to you at the right timing,
And everything in the right timing. And if I can also say too, to your listeners, like this is an important nuance to this. Okay. So deciding is scary. It's never not going to be scary. Okay. And sometimes you need to leap before you're fully ready, right? You need to just trust in the universe that it's going to catch you. And a great example of this, in fact, actually, I tell this story often, is when I was working with a sales coach. I was about a year into SimplyBe and I was doing well, right? My business was growing and I was working with a sales coach, and she was, asking me about my pricing. She's like, how much do you charge a month in monthly retainer? And I was like, $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And she was like, oh, how much do you want to charge? And I said, well, I'd really love to charge like $7,500 a month. And I said that number and I almost threw up in my mouth because it was so big and I felt so imposter when I said it, right? And she said, write that number on a sticky note, put it on your computer and look at it every day. So a few weeks later, I was in a meeting with a client or potential client, and I was pitching him, and he asked me my cost. And I just said $7,500 a month. And I wasn't ready. I hadn't, thought that really through. I never thought up until that moment, I could charge that. And in that moment, I decided that was my rate. And it was scary and it made me want to throw up again. And guess what? He said, okay.
That's awesome.
And that became my new rate, like in that moment.
Yeah. I think that's so important that people hear that sometimes you just have to leap, even if you're not ready yet, because our brain will always try to keep us safe, and we'll always throw in these limiting beliefs of like, oh, you don't know enough, you're not ready, you're not prepared, blah, blah, blah. And it will always hold us back. So I think sometimes we have to shove ourselves off the cliff and
ledge.
It's free dive.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I need to hear that myself. Trust me. So,
good.
Well, going into your book, so I know you break down a lot of tangible tools and steps to actually work through the process. So I believe the first chapter is Be Real. And that we are already touched on, which has to do with vulnerability, really being in alignment with your truth. Is there anything else you could include with the Be Real aspect of, why, well, you've kind of touched on why that is the first step. Like that is developing your personal brand, is becoming you in alignment to your truth and knowing what that is. But is there anything else you could add to that?
Yeah. I mean, so the first section is Be Real. And I dive all deepest. It's Be Real, Be Your Brand, Be Free. Those are the three sections of the book. And Be Real is really the section where I hope to break apart everything you ever thought about personal branding and then some, to really bust up the perception and debunk the myths that so many people have around this space. But the first chapter of the book, actually, this is to answer your question, is called Embrace Your Shit. And I utilize examples of really well-known personal brands like Oprah Winfrey, Gary Vaynerchuk. I talk about Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, and how these are people who are crazy successful, like multimillionaire billionaires. And they never hid. I mean, obviously you don't have to put your whole life on a glass case for people to know every little detail, but they used their mess because they all came from rough childhoods and trauma and, hard times. And they utilized
those stories in service of their audiences and created their companies, the foundation of these messes that became their mission, right? A lot of people talk about making your mess your message. I'm like, make it your mission. Put it into your bedrock and the DNA of your organization, and look at how successful they are. And so I think that people really need to be willing to infuse what's really real for them into their businesses, into their stories, because that's what's really going to connect at the end of the day. And to that end, I think that people, this is really the last chapter of Be Real that takes you into Be Your Brand, is this exercise that I have you do where you write out all of your self-limiting beliefs that you have about people judging you, whatever stories you have about this space, and putting your name out into the world. And I have you rewrite it through the lens of love and empowerment. And I think to really set yourself up for success, you've got to take a look at your shit. You've got to make sure that you're coming from a place of service, because the truth is no one cares about you. People care about themselves. And that doesn't make us bad people. That makes us human. And so if you're architecting a personal brand from ego, you're doing it wrong. If you're architecting it from authenticity, of service, of love and empowerment, you're going to resonate. You just will. And so that's step one. And then I take you through the tools, but you have to have that knowingness first.
Yeah. And actually that was the one exercise I kind of wanted to pull out, was in the Be Real section, was the questions you should ask yourself to kind of uncover who you are and what is your mess or message that you're going to share from that, or mission, that is.
I'm so glad.
So what were a couple of those questions?
So I have this, chapter 4 is a look at like myths versus truths, right? So myths that we have, like everyone and anyone can call themselves an expert today. So it takes away from my validity if I do it. And that's the myth. And the truth is, we live in an ever abundant universe where there's enough to go around. And if someone else is saying it, doesn't take away the fact that you can say it too. And that we live in this great time that anyone can launch an Instagram channel or a YouTube channel or a website or write a blog and be seen as influential. And if you think that that's a bad thing, then that's you playing small, right? And so really taking a look at these myths that we tell ourselves about being seen in the world, I just think that's what people are so afraid of. And, you know, you can kind of make them your own. Like a really easy myth is just like, I'm overwhelmed by social media and I don't get it. And everyone else is ahead of me and I feel like a dummy and I don't have time. Well, you could rewrite that with love and empowerment and say, I'm so excited to utilize this new skill set and understand a space I've never known before to inspire me. And I am right on time with my message based on my life story and everything I've done up until this point.
Oh, so empowering.
So that's what I'm trying to teach people in that chapter,
Yeah.
and in the book, the whole book, actually.
And I know you also mentioned how our business brand and our personal brand are intertwined. They're not separate. And I think that's a really important thing to bring out, because when we talk about personal branding, I think even if I initially heard the word personal branding, I think, of how you're showing up on social media, that you need to develop, this image or this, whatever it may be, to stand alone as a personal brand. But it's not, I think it's so much more than that. And I know you described this much in the book. So how you said that your business brand and your personal brand should be intertwined, they shouldn't be separate. Can you go a little deeper in that and why that is so important?
So this conversation of authenticity, right? So who you are being 9 to 5, proverbially speaking, shouldn't be different than who you are 5 to 9. That's the opposite of authenticity. And the more that you bring your true self to work, the more you bring your whole self to your job, the more magnetic you're going to become. And the more, and I say this in my book, what do magnets do? Magnets attract. We just attract more opportunity, revenue, right? Relationships, network, whatever. And so I think that you have to be really clear on what your humanity, the intersection of who you are being, your personality, and clear on what your unique professional value is. And that is what the book is going to help you do, is to really define both and put them together into a unified, clarified message. And that's really when a personal brand, in my view, comes to life like so powerfully. Now, I also want to point out something you asked, Erica, because like people get really overwhelmed about social media and think that your personal brand lives on social media and social media is the only place a personal brand belongs. I think that's crap. If you could have zero presence on the internet and you still have a personal brand, you do. And the reason for that is because you interface with human beings every day, and you're leaving behind an impression. You, based on what you wear, based on how you do your hair, based on how you look someone in the eye, based on how you treat people, that is all telling a story about yourself. And when you become conscious of those things, that's a superpower. That doesn't make you vain and self-centered. That makes you so lit up and empowered to have awareness of how people are perceiving you. It's life-changing. And so online, offline, professional, personal, your personal brand is your innate power and knowingness and value. And you should bring that with you wherever you go for the rest of your life. And I really believe that.
Yes, that's a great way to put it, is that no matter what, we're always making impressions. And of course, social media, we have this thing called impressions. And
yes,
like you said, like in real life, we are constantly making impressions. And you touched on generosity and how important that is. And I think back in the day, with the beginning of social media, and I'm not trying to revolve this all around social media, because as we just touched on, it's not about social media. But back in the day in social media, it was, what can I get out of this? Or what can I, what benefits will I get by doing this? But now we need to look at it as, how could I be of service to others? What could I give? And I think that's so important, that how things have really shifted in our world. Luckily, I mean, I like how social media has transitioned, because it's no more of this influencer, this fake, this, like promoting a product that you don't even use or believe in. Now it's about, how do I connect more and share more of, how could I be of service?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I love that we're aligned there. And I really think that's shifting. And it's so cool to see. It's all about community, giving back, nurturing a community, adding value, not just noise. And people can smell it like a mile away if it's about you and inauthentic. And I don't want people to overthink it so much. Like, just get online, add value, help people, be of service. And my book will help you really, really figure out exactly how to do that. But it's really not that complicated.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody that doesn't feel comfortable yet sharing their, if you want to say, mess, or being so vulnerable on an online space when, they're not there yet? What would you say? Because it does seem like it's a very important thing. Like, vulnerability is, as I think it's a superpower as well.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody that's not quite there yet, that wants to connect more with people?
I mean, I think that it's not, you don't owe people your whole life, and in order to, vulnerability shouldn't be used as a manipulation tactic. It should be authentic if that's really what you feel comfortable sharing. And I also have this very strong philosophy that don't process on the internet. It's not a place to process. If you're in the middle of a breakup, if you're in the middle of a, argument, or you're going through a business struggle, don't put it online. Deal with it, heal from it, and then learn the wisdom to share it after the fact, right? Don't process out loud on the internet. It's a place for you to share your inspiration based on wisdom you've gleaned from your hard experiences, sure. But, I'll use myself as an example just to answer your question, because I've constructed this formula in my book called The Personal Brand Hologram, which I know you read. And I really advise the reader to choose 4 pillars, brand pillars, 4 areas of their business and their life that they really want to own, that becomes the foundation to their message and the foundation to their entire platform. And my pillars, for whatever it's worth, are female entrepreneurship, like leadership, personal branding, of course, expansive energy, because I love to, travel and work out and like have this like positive energy, and then light worker, like spirituality, like that's a component of my whole message. And I can share quite vulnerably within those 4 buckets. Now, I'm also married to an amazing man, and we have an amazing marriage, but I don't share, and we also fight too, it's marriage. I don't share our relationship on the internet very much. It's just not something him and I feel comfortable doing. It's a conscious choice to keep that part of my life private. Mm-hmm. I also struggle with anxiety and autoimmune issues, and I have a bunch of holistic modalities, and I have a crazy diet because of the stuff I've dealt with in my health, and but I don't talk about that stuff either. 1, that's not what I want to be known for, and 2, that's really personal stuff. And so I, of course, will drip out certain things, and if I find a fun new product and I want to share with my audience, like an organic whatever, but it's not the cornerstone. And so I hope that was helpful for your audience to think about. If you're not comfortable with like vulnerability and sharing all these personal things, don't do it. Just figure out what else you want to share and what else can add value that feels really comfortable and good and in alignment and authentic, and share that instead.
Yes. I love that. I love that you shared that, because that's so true, that it doesn't mean you have to share everything. And I think also you need to be ready and don't, and I think that's true, that when you're in the mess, focus on the mess at the time. And then once you're past it and you're able to breathe and reflect and able to express it in the right way to help somebody, then do it then if you choose to. Yes.
Exactly. And I know that because I used to do that. So there's no judgment here. Like I used to be that girl starting my relationship breakup on Facebook. And then someone actually told me, like, Jess, not a good look. Not a good look.
I know, it's so true. I've seen that. Definitely. Yeah. And moving into the personal branding, which is the second section, you mentioned there's 4 C's that we must do to build a personal brand. So if you could just pull out that, what were those?
Consistency, clarity, constancy, and commitment. And so clarity is that razor sharp message. Consistency is like staying the course and not bopping all over the place and really like sticking to your narrative. Constancy is showing up on the same place at the same channel. So like you can't do Twitter for a couple weeks and then bounce to Instagram and peace out and try Facebook and then do a newsletter and then try and launch a podcast. Like constancy, like choose it and stick to the lanes. And then commitment is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you have to stay committed to the journey, and that is how you compound. The people who are maybe in money know that philosophy and that term. Same applies to building your platform. The longer you do it, the more it grows. Like no one is an overnight success. And most people you see who are at their peak, like just reached their peak in the last few years, and they've been doing it for 10 or 15 years. Absolutely.
And you being a podcaster as well, we can attest to that. It's not, probably many people are like this these days. We don't know what we're doing when we start it. We just do it and we learn along the way, and we get better and better, and our downloads get better more and more. And, it takes time and commitment and consistency. Yeah. So all these things, I think anything we want in life, it really takes anything, a relationship or your personal development. Like you have to be consistent. You have to be, stay in the course. So I love that you share those 4 pillars or the 4 C's. Super important. And clarity, I think, is one of the most important, actually. If we don't have clarity, we could be completely going down the wrong lane for a long time.
Clarity is one of the world's greatest gifts that we can impart onto ourselves. Clarity will change your life. And my book actually talks quite a bit about clarity. You can't be everything to everyone, or you'll be nothing to no one. And knowing who you are and who you are not is huge. And my book will help you to find that clarity. Clarity is king, not content. You have to have a razor sharp, crystal clear message and understanding of who you are being in order to really, follow your path.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about also being a thought leader. And I think a lot of people listening to this podcast, they want to be a thought leader. They want to be somebody that is truly making an impact in the world and inspiring others. So becoming a thought leader, what do you think is the most essential quality we must possess?
So
besides authenticity.
Yeah, of course. Thought leaders think. That's why they're called thought leaders, right? So thought leaders lead new ways of thinking. And so take a risk, put your original ideas out into the world, and don't just do it on social media. Thought leaders don't really think about social media. They have it as part of their platform. Of course, it's how they reach and grow their audiences, but that's not where their thought leadership lives and dies. Like, think about Glennon Doyle or Brene Brown or Oprah or Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, yes, they're huge, but like they've written books, they've created courses and workshop materials, they have videos, they have media platforms beyond social. And if you took away Glennon Doyle's Instagram, she'd still be Glennon Doyle. Like, so people really need to think about, how can I extrapolate my IP, my intellectual property that exists in my brain based on my own life experiences, and pour them into a medium. Podcast is a great one, for example. Right here is a beautiful form of your thought leadership. Same thing with blogging, webinars, videos, masterminds. There's all these different formats of what I call content, quote unquote, today that is so unlimited and so exciting. And really just invest in that value, because I say this a lot. Where there is time spent, there is value created. And you can't really position yourself as a thought leader if all you're doing is Instagramming all day. Like, that's a different industry. That's if you want to be an influencer and get paid by brands to create content. Okay, that's not what my book is about, and that's not what I do. It's really about building thought leaders so that you can really leverage your expertise to open up so many doors. When you're a thought leader, the phone rings in your direction, not the other way around,
Absolutely. And just to kind of wrap this up, because I know that your book provides so much value. We're just touching on little pieces of it, but the last one being be free. And I actually recently heard your latest episode on SimplyBe podcast, and it was about be free, and that being the word of the month, which I love that you do that, by the way. I want to give you credit for that, because I'm like, that's brilliant. I like it.
Thank you.
But be free, how important freedom is, and freedom to be yourself, and freedom to live your life as you wish it to be, right? Yes. I think that is so important. And so I love that you included that in this book, that closing it with be free. So can you touch a little bit on what that means to you?
I mean, I think that freedom is our core desire, yearning as a human species, is to feel free. And, the end of the book really, really walks you through, how to ultimately at the end of the day, put the book down, to go live your life and to be inspired and to be moved, so that you have an inspiring and moving message to share. It sort of takes you full circle. But I just think that the most powerful thing we can do is to free ourselves to be ourselves unapologetically, out loud, in the world, regardless of what people think of us. And guess what happens? Like, in my view, you create a domino effect of awakening for other people. Because I don't know about you, Erica, but it's been other people, whether I know them personally or they're on, the internet or on TV, that are living their life so unapologetically, authentically, out loud, bravely, that have been my permission slip. Like, okay,
absolutely,
I can do it. They're doing it. I'm so motivated by that. And so your freedom is, yes, your key to unlocking your abundant, successful life, but it also can up-level the world around us. And you can change the world by being who you are. Like, you really have that power, because how do we change the world? We change the world one person at a time. We all impact people, all of us. No matter how big or small your freaking platform, you don't even have to have a platform to change people's lives. So that's really what that whole section is about. And it's actually my favorite section of the book.
That's so beautiful.
I really want people to read the whole thing through, because that's really when it gets really good.
Oh, I love it. So I know we touched a lot on the book, but I'm really just pulling out things out of the book because this is your message to people: is be truly you, connected with and aligned with your truth and your authentic self, and how to develop a personal brand, but not as really a business entity. It's more like as the person you are in the world, so you could impact and make a ripple or create a ripple effect. So I think I'm just kind of using the book as a tool to guide this conversation, because you provided so much value, and I know I'm going to dig a lot further into it. So where can people find your book? And I know it's available February 16th, but you could pre-order now. So
please pre-order. Pre-orders are so important to get your book out into the world in a significant way. And every copy counts. And I'm not really, I'm a salesperson by nature because I run a business, but I've never had to really, your book is a product. Like, it sits on a shelf and you have to sell it to people. And like your services, which become, it's more conversational, but I really have to be as bold as ever when it comes to asking people to buy my book. And it's, $29, and it's my life's work. And I'm so excited for people to read it. So jessicazweig.com/book. You can go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes and Noble, you can support your local bookshops. Definitely do that if you have one in your area. And it's available wherever books are sold. So pre-sale is huge, and it comes out February 16th. And you can find me on Instagram. That's where I spend most of my social media time, is on Instagram, Jessica Zweig.
Amazing. Well, what's so great is this book is actually everything that you serve to your clients. So
it is.
We haven't talked about people working directly with you, but of course I know that's an option as well, which you could find out more on our website. But the fact that this book kind of provides the tools you already share to your clients, it's just doing the homework yourself, more or less, and taking ownership of your life and creating more abundance in all ways we could possibly in our life. So I think it's so great. So if I were to close and ask you one question, I always like to say, if somebody were to write a book, what would be the first, which you kind of already shared this, but what would be one piece of advice you would share with others? If you could share
on the journey to writing a book?
In general.
Oh, in general.
Just in general, one piece of advice you would like to share with others.
I'm going to steal this one from the great Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'm a fan of. I think he was asked a similar question, and it resonated so much, and I'll just reshare it. Make sure you have at least 3 to 4, really close people in your life. Like, that's kind of all you need, because the rest of this is just noise. But if you have people who really love you, who really have your back, who really take care of you, who you can trust and you can lean on, that makes you fly. And I just think that keeping your inner circle like really, really sacred, nothing really, like, that's what really matters in life. And I cannot speak enough about how that has really proven to be the secret sauce to my success, are those people.
That wasn't what I expected to hear from you, but I think that's so beautifully said. And it truly is important. We do need to have our inner tribe to support us on this journey in life. So yes, I love that. Well, this has been such an honor, Jessica. You are absolutely stunning. And I just appreciate your authenticity and how you shine your light on the screen, off the screen, and, on social media and everything. You're helping so many. So I appreciate you so much.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.